Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the go-to platform where faith-driven entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and experts share their stories, wisdom, and expertise to inspire and impact others. This isn't just another interview series. This is a strategic platform designed to amplify the voices of high-level entrepreneurs, which especially includes kingdom entrepreneurs who are making a real difference in their industries. My goal is simple: to serve you, the expert, by giving you a stage to share your message, expand your reach, and create lasting value for others. Through authentic, in-depth conversations, we uncover the real journeys, challenges, and victories behind today's leading experts. Each interview isn't just content. It's a powerful asset that helps you to establish authority, increase visibility, and connect with the right people. So with that, let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another expert interview with Ken. And today I have special guest Charity Williams, and she is the founder of Hope Words, a faith-based creative movement helping people to encounter God and find healing through creativity. As an artist, writer, and overcomer of anxiety, depression, and trauma, Charity discovered that creativity is not just passion. It is a sacred pathway to restoration and divine connection. Through paint, poetry, and heartfelt inspiration, she helps others awaken their God-given creativity and reclaim hope. Her mission is to empower people to live with bold faith, freedom, and purpose, believing that when we create, we encounter God. So Charity, I want to say welcome to today's episode. I am so excited and just totally pleasured to have you on the show and grateful. What I want to do and how I want to start today is I want to start with you unpacking your story. Unpack what happened to get you to this point, why you're here, and why that's a passion. So let's go. Let's dive in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's an honor
Welcome.
to be your guest. And yeah, my personal story. As a child, I was always very creative, always doodling, always, whimsical and imaginative, and always had something, crayons or pens or pencils in my hand. Um, and then as I kind of grew up, I started to kind of get into some comparison. And then as I continued to grow up, just feeling that like my art's not very good, it's not good enough kind of stuff. And as I grew older, it became, well, it's time to grow up now. So I kind of
Mm.
shelved my creativity and I said, that's children's play, that's hobbies. I need to focus on being an adult, and art doesn't really have a place. So I kind of put it on a shelf for lots of years. Um, and then in 2015, I did little projects here and there, but not really. Like it was just kind of like, oh, I could do that, doodle or whatever, but not like wholeheartedly. And then in 2015, I attended a class that was a creative class, and I was like completely awakened, like completely, totally whoa, awakened. And God began to heal my heart through creativity. He began to encounter me and, touch places in my heart that I didn't even know needed healing. And that was kind of like the first aha moment that I had of, wow, there's a whole lot more to creativity than it just being a hobby or it just being a doodle or, you know, it had value all of a sudden. And after that time, after that class, I began to kind of step into it. And I'm like, okay, God, like if creativity healed me that much, then I want to start asking you for pictures and prophetic art that I can give to people and that would heal their hearts, that would impact them. And so I began to, during church, during worship, um, God, show me something. Show me what you want somebody to know. And I would doodle it out. And then I would give it to them. And I'd say, hey, I felt like God highlighted you, and this is for you. And I hope it's a blessing. And it was like every single time someone was like, you have no idea what this means to me. And so it's like, it really encouraged my creativity. I'm like, oh, this really does have value, and it's not just for me, it's for other people. Um, and so I was, really active with doing that. Then in 2017, I got really sick and I almost died. I stopped breathing. And from that event, as a child, I had kind of dealt with some depression and kind of suicidal thoughts and things like that. And some of that came back after I got sick. I dealt with depression, and not only that, it was partnered with anxiety and panic attacks which I had never experienced before. And yeah, so it was crazy. And I got really depressed, and I noticed that I was always looking at my feet. And one day I was in my kitchen looking at my feet for the thousandth time, and God was like, hey, you should put something on your feet that reminds you of hope, that encourages you, that lifts you up. And since you're creative, why don't you grab a pair of shoes and a paintbrush and paint yourself a pair of hope shoes? And I was like, I can do that. So that was the beginning for me of birthing hope words. I painted shoes for myself. I wore them everywhere, and they really did encourage me. It was like, in those moments of panic, I go, okay, God says I'm healthy. God says I'm well. God says, I have courage. I can be brave. Those types of words, I kind of wrapped my feet in them. And then it was kind of fun because other people caught on, and they're
Mhm.
like, I want a pair of hope shoes. And so I had the opportunity to paint hope shoes for lots of people and sent them to different places in the US. And that was a lot of fun for that season. Um, yeah, and then I birthed Hope Words from there. It's like, this goes beyond just shoes. It goes beyond that. There's a deeper message here. And um, for me, Hope Words is moving toward hope, but it's also hope words, like how powerful our words are to um, ignite that hope and remind us who we are, and give us purpose and keep us going and heal our hearts, heal our minds. So it's kind of a twofold, um, always moving towards hope, always moving towards God. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment, is building building that out and inviting other creatives and bringing them into the conversation.
So, just give me a few details on how exactly you help others with their challenges, and being creative and looking past areas of maybe depression or struggles or stress or anxiety, and use their creativity to, connect in with God and different things like that. How exactly do you help people in their own journey?
Yeah, so I host activation classes is what I call them. And so we'll have different groups of people, invite people in, and I've used different mediums. So I've done paint, I've done clay to just get your hands messy, because for some people, being messy is scary. And so it's it's one of those things where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're going to be covered in this stuff, and it's going to be okay. And you're not going to like what you make, but it's the process of creating. And same thing with paint. Some people are like, "Oh, I hate it." It's like, yeah, but focus into what God's saying right now as you're slapping that paint on the canvas. What is God showing you? What is He doing in your heart? Different activations, different questions of, um, God, what are some lies that I've been believing? And have people write those lies down on their canvas, and then
Mm.
go, God, what do you say about those things. And then just sitting in that, sitting in his presence, sitting in his goodness and his kindness and his truth, and then going, okay, now from this place of healing and hope and restoration, now I want you to paint over those lies because that's what God does. He removes them.
Right,
We
right.
can't really erase it, but so he makes it beautiful, and he takes our story, he takes those dark places, and he wraps it in his beauty. And so, encouraging people, okay, now you're going to create. What did you see? What did you feel? What did you experience? Put that on your canvas. And so, I mean, I've had people just crying as they're painting, and um, different things like that. I've painted uh, in front of people, like at church, in front
Mhm.
of the church, and people watching me create has unlocked them in their own healing, in their own journey of, wow, you were, able to put on that canvas what I feel, but I can't express with my words, but you just expressed it with paint. And I watched the process. And there were moments, they would tell me there were moments where it was looking kind of, because art is art, and there's moments where it looks really ugly. And you kind
Mhm.
of have to keep trusting that process. And it's that analogy for life. It's like sometimes life looks really ugly, and it looks really hard, and it looks really blah, and maybe your colors are running together and it just looks like a gray mess. But if you trust the process, God continues to, build you and make that beautiful. So, that's another way that I've been able to impact people. And then, yeah, just I've done, um, you know, I'm so many classes, just so many classes. Even doing paint with me classes where it's a structured painting, and I've had people get unlocked there because they're like, I came because it's a birthday party and this is so out of my element and I'm so uncomfortable, but I'm here because I love the person and I'm gonna give it a shot just because I love the person that we're celebrating. And they sit down and they discover that maybe they're not so bad and maybe it's kind of fun. And wow, like I actually made that. And they walk away with this knowing in their heart of like, I'm actually more capable than I realized, and I don't have to be afraid of creativity. I can just play and enjoy it, even if it's uncomfortable. And, for them to walk away with that, like, I actually am creative. I made this and it's beautiful. Um, so I mean that ignites my heart. Um, I've done a lot of classes with elderly people too, in elder care homes, and I love seeing them come alive again. They've a lot of times the elderly they'll lose hope. They're just in their elder care home and they're lonely and they're dealing with stuff, end of life stuff,
Mm.
and
Mm.
to put a paintbrush in their hand again. And for some it's the first time they've never been brave enough to pick up that paintbrush, but now they are, and they're like, oh no, I can't paint, I can't paint. It's like, trust me, you can. Just try it. Just pick the paint up. Just do it with me. And at the end, they're like, I did that. Like, oh my gosh. And you can just see the light in their eyes of,
Mhm.
that hope and that realization that I have something to offer. And there's still more for me to do, and there's still more for me to learn. And so I don't know. Those are some of the ways that I see people get unlocked and mindsets healed and hope restored, you know? So,
That's awesome. Now, another kind of like maybe a little bit deeper question around that. Why do you think that is so effective? So, I mean, I find it really interesting that somebody can get in front of a canvas, get in front of a paintbrush, and as they're painting and as they're seeing what they're painting, and at first it being ugly and getting kind of discouraged with it, but then Why do you think it's so effective to then connect them in with God and what God wants to
Mm.
tell them? Why do you think that's so effective?
Well, um, it says in Genesis that God created us in his image and his likeness. So it goes all the way back. Creativity was imprinted on our DNA. And I
Mhm.
think that as little people, as, kids, we are free and we do create. I mean, everybody's picked up a crayon in their childhood and created, or, most people, trauma life, that's different story, but the majority of everybody has had moments of creativity as a child that's free. That's just, I'm just going to make this because I think it's beautiful. And don't you love my picture? You know?
Mhm.
And then we grow up, and there's a statistic, and I don't know the numbers, but it's like kids are so creative, and by the time we're adults, there's like 5% or 2% or something like that of the population that are still creative. And
Mhm.
it's
Right.
because we shut it down. We turn it off. We go, it's not, like I said in my story, it's not valued. There's no value in creativity. What are you going to do with that? Like, you can't make a career unless you're a professional artist, or and I think too, creativity is I think we try to put it in a box of painting, of art, of those kinds of things. And God didn't just create artists. He created carpenters. He created engineers. He created, business people. He created, it's our creativity is not limited to art. Now, that's an avenue that I use personally um, to reach past those mindsets and to reach past and connect people to God. Um, but God put it on our DNA. It's written on our DNA from the beginning. And so I think when people get in front of that canvas and they dare to be brave enough to do it, when they dare to just go, I'm going to do it anyway. I always say, look fear in the face and do it anyway.
Mhm.
It's like you're just
Right.
going to do it. You're just going to do it. And then taking it to that deeper level with God where it's like, if God created you in his image and likeness, then when you create, you're reflecting him on the earth. So don't create out of what you're bringing to the table, but connect with him and go, okay, God, I want to co-create with you and I want to reflect you. And so as you're creating, it changes the perspective from I don't like what I'm making to it doesn't really matter what it looks like. I'm creating with God. Like, this is awesome. And so it does kind of push past that mindset of, I'm not a creative. I'm not a creative. It's like, no, you are. And if you can connect with God and if you can let him encounter your heart and your mind for just a moment and get past
Mhm.
that fear and get past that insecurity and that comparison and all of those things that keep us stuck, then you'll find that you can make beautiful things with him, and you'll look at it with pride and joy of that was a moment. That was like it's kind of like marking that as an encounter with God. And you look at that art and you may not love it. You may not love it still. It might not have turned out. That's okay. You mark that moment with him on that
Right.
canvas. And so it's like it doesn't really matter what it and I think for me, like it also, that grates the perfectionist people because they're like, it's not perfect. I don't like it, and they want to take it home and they want to fix it. But I've had people give me testimonies afterward where they're like, oh, I hated it. And I took it home and I put it in the corner. And every time I looked at it, I remembered the encounter and I began to
Mhm.
love it and I began to treasure it and I began to not think it was so terrible. And I began, and it was like, so God even uses it after the moment to heal hearts and heal their minds and go, but it wasn't about the art that you made. It was about the moment you had with me. And, they fall in love with it and they can't touch it. They're like, I'm not going to fix that. There's nothing to fix. Like, and so I think that's a testimony of God's goodness and his faithfulness. And he really does love creativity, really does partner with us. And we step into that It does. It goes so deep and it's so important. So yeah, I love it. I love to watch how he encounters people's hearts and how he does the work. I might lead the activation with my voice, but it's all him and them in that moment on their canvas in that time. And it's very personal. It's very personal. People will go different places in their hearts and they go, I didn't even know that was a thing for me. I didn't know that I needed healing in that area.
Mm.
And what God showed me was this moment in my past and how he was with me, just different testimonies. And you're like, wow. So for me as the I guess the leader of it, um, I'm touched and blessed by them coming alive and seeing their own encounters and hearing their stories. It's like, whoa, God did that. Like, that's so cool. It blows my mind every time. Like, so yeah, I think it's so important to bring God into it because he is the ultimate creator. He made us, he imprinted it on
Mm.
our DNA.
Yes.
And when we step into that area with him, it's no longer about comparison or perfectionism or a masterpiece or, you know, it just isn't. It's just about that moment with him and it's beautiful. So,
What I like about what you do is that you literally help people to experience a very unique moment and one that is so special. It's one that they probably would not have been able to experience on their own. And I love the story you tell about, the person who would bring home that painting that at first is just, they're just like, this is ugly. I don't like it. And they stick it in the corner. And then every time they look at it, they think of, the encounter that they had with their Lord and
mhm.
Savior, the encounter that they had with their God, and
Yeah.
that special moment, and it becomes more special and more special, and pretty soon that painting now becomes beautiful because it's wrapped around that special moment. And
Mhm.
I think that's something that's very unique about what you help people do. I've actually never heard of anybody that's done it that way before. And
Okay.
that's why I like it because I'm the person, I like to think outside the box. I like to hack things. I like to get around things. You say it, that it only works this way. I'm the person, I'm going to find a hack around that,
I find a different way.
yeah, and I'm gonna find a different
Yeah.
way. That's exactly. So that is the creative in me, and
Yeah.
yes, I am a very, very much creative. When I'm working on my business and different things like that, I love getting on Canva and creating frameworks for my business and different things like that. I love it. The only problem is sometimes I get lost there, and I
Yeah.
don't do the other things that I need to do. So it's crazy. But here's another question that I have for you, and I kind of want to take things just slightly deeper here. What are some of the lies the enemy tells people to keep them from stepping into their creative calling?
Hmm. Yeah. Some of the lies, I mean, they're so common to everybody. I mean, I'm not good enough. Um, it's not perfect. Um, I'm looking at the person next to me and their artwork, and mine looks nothing like that. So, it's that comparison piece. And you're not really a creative. You just dabble. I've heard people
Mm.
say that. Well, I'm not an artist. I just dabble. It's just a hobby. It's just, I love art, but I'm not an artist. And it's like you sit them in front of something and you're like, you sure about that? Because
Right?
what you just made is stunning, and you're telling me you're not an artist. It's like, no.
Mm.
So those lies of just that, I mean, even for me personally, I've had a hard time sitting in front of a canvas and going, if I can't make a masterpiece, then I don't want to make anything at all because it's not going to be good enough for somebody's wall. It's not going to be good enough to be sold. It's not going to be valued or appreciated. So that has held me back in my life of well, I'm just not going to create then, and so you don't, and you miss out on those moments. But yeah, I mean, the biggest ones that I have encountered is that, I'm not good enough. I'm not really an artist. I'm not very creative. Those, and it breaks my heart when I hear people who are so incredibly creative. They just don't happen to be artists. I have a friend who is absolutely phenomenal businesswoman. Like she just gets it. Like she just gets it. And I'm like, how do you even I don't even my brain doesn't even go there. And she's got this creative way to think about that and this creative way to do this. And she has this business mind. And I'm like, you are so creative. And she's like, no, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. It's like, do you even know what's in you? And I'm like, it
Right.
breaks my heart. So I'm like, I can see it. It's just, it might not be artistic, but you're so creative. And so I think putting it into that box of, well, it has to be art. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be art at all. It has to be good enough. No, it doesn't. You just have to play. You just have to encounter Jesus and put something on the canvas, or doodle something in your sketchbook. The more you do it, the better you get. So just go, just do it,
Mhm. Right, exactly.
Um,
Just do it. Yep.
yeah, and I mean, comparison is such a lie, period, in all aspects of our life. We look at the person next to us, well, I'm not as joyful as them, so I'm not good enough. Or, well, I don't speak as well as them, so I'm not good enough. And so it's that comparison. It's like the nastiest, ugliest lie I think that probably everybody at some point in their life has dealt with. And I think creatives deal with it a lot
Hmm.
more. Um, and I think I've seen it a lot more with the artistic creatives. My husband he's he's good with like computer programs, so graphic design. He can just whip things together really fast. And for me, it would take me an hour, and for him, it's like 10 minutes, and he's done, and it's beautiful. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, how? Um, but for I lost my train of thought. Um,
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds.
No worries. So while you're getting your train of thought back, there's something
Yeah.
else that I just wrote down here. So just
Hmm.
work in your brain to get that train of thought
Yeah.
back.
I know
Um,
I will because it was important, but I,
you'll get
yeah,
it back.
lost
I
it.
know you
Sorry.
will. So the word that I wrote down just now is journey.
Mhm.
So going through that process is a journey, and it's something that I actually teach in my frameworks with my clients. And I was just on the phone with one of my clients the other day, and I was talking about this very fact, the fact that it is a journey. So I'm a weight loss coach, for anybody listening in the audience that doesn't know. Um, and one of the pivotal foundations that I teach is one, it's a journey, and two, you get to embrace that journey. The journey of learning, even when it's messy. And that's actually something really cool that my coach has laid a foundation in me. Do it even if you have to do it messy, but learn through it, grow through it, get better
Mhm.
through it, right? And
Right.
I think one of the things that we fall into a lot of times is, yes, that comparison.
Hmm.
And then it's kind of like a fixed mindset where it's like, well, I'll never be as good at this person over here.
Yeah.
That's part of the fixed mindset, actually. And so
Mhm.
the fixed mindset person, typically, what they do is they look at all the skills and abilities and gifts that they have in the moment as that's all that they have.
Oh, yeah.
Opportunity to grow, the opportunity to get better. So, for example, they also did a test with these kids at one time, and it was a hard and challenging test. Well, there
Mhm.
were the kids that came at that test and said, "No, I'm not going to take the test because I know I'm not going to pass it."
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
there's the kids that came across that test and took it and failed and used that as a dictation of their level of intelligence. Again,
Mm.
fixed mindset. The growth mindset person, however, looks at that test. Maybe they know they're going to fail it, but they go ahead with it and they learn through it and they get better
Mhm.
each time and they learn how to pass that test and gain a skill that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
That is something that I think is crucial to people, especially in the creativity field or the artistic field, especially when they're starting out.
Yeah.
Remembering that you get to embrace a growth mindset from that. It's not going to be perfect. It might look messy in the beginning, but embrace the mess too.
Yeah.
Perfect patience over perfection. That's another thing that I teach my clients.
Yeah.
Patience over perfection. And here's a question that I often ask people. And what I like to do is wait for it to sink in. So I'll ask this question to you, and then I'm
Okay.
going to wait for that response because you'll make it.
Yay.
Um, what if God were as patient with us as we are with ourselves?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah. There's the reaction. You're like,
Yeah.
no.
No. Thank God he's not.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But see, what gets to happen is you get to be patient with yourself. It's a
Yeah.
journey. It's a
It,
process.
yeah.
It's not an overnight thing. Anyhow,
Yeah.
did you get the
I
thought that you
I did
wanted?
remember. I did.
Yes. Okay, so
Did.
continue.
So my husband is, like I said, he is a graphic designer. And I can walk over and say, "Hey, can you move this thing or can you tweak that thing? Can you change the color here?" And he just does it, right? He just does it and it's done and it's wonderful and
Like
it
boom,
works
boom,
great
boom.
for him. Yeah. But if someone were to come to my painting and say, "Hey, that color is a little off. You should use this color instead," or, your proportions are a little wonky. You should maybe try it this way. I would be crushed. Like I would be like, like the life is sucked out of me. And I think as creatives, as specifically artist creatives, um, our art is our heart on
Hmm.
that canvas. And as my husband, as a graphic design person, his heart is not involved in the process. It's just moving pieces and putting things on a canvas, and he could care less. And he tells me that all the time. He's like, "You're not going to offend me to tell me to move something." He's like, "It doesn't matter to me." He's like, "It matters to me, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my heart. It doesn't affect my identity." Whereas creatives, specifically artists, um, it's literally our guts on that canvas, and we're like, this we're seeing, our creativity is so attached to our
Hmm.
identity and who we are. So when that identity and that depth of our creativity is attached to an encounter with God, it's like in that moment, those lies are just destroyed because there's like God touches that deepest, deepest, deepest part of who we are and rewrites that. And it's like everything goes, oh, you know, and because it's so personal and it's so intimate. And whereas for someone else that's not an artist creative, it's not personal. It's just, you know, um, so I was saying, that comparison, that perfection, that need to create that masterpiece, need to be successful in that area.
Hmm.
I think it's so much deeper for a creative, and I'm speaking from an artist's perspective. I'm sure it's the same in a different way for the other types of creativity as well. But just coming from the artist's point of view, um, our heart is on that canvas, and
Yeah.
it takes a lot of bravery to um, put our heart on that canvas. And then if it's not good enough, or if someone says it's not good enough, I mean, just, we just spiral, because it's so personal and so intimate. But yeah, encountering God in those places is, it heals that spot. Um,
I
yeah.
think one of the things I've learned as a creative is to be open to coaching and suggestions. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's not necessarily easy for me. I remember so there's another show that I co-host called The Total True Show. And I remember at a point with my co-host and I, we were just like, let's upgrade the thumbnail. So I behind the scenes put it all together and did all, and I thought it looked great. And I was just like, oh, this is just amazing. And she came on, she's kind of more of a perfectionist with some of these things. She came on and she's like, well, she's like, this is, not portioned with this, and my hair's too big or whatever. And she was just like, and I'm sitting there like, because what I basically did, so I created it on Canva, and then I shared with her the link so she can log in and create too. And she has the paid account for Canva. I have the free account. And so I was sitting there, and we were both I think we were on a Zoom call together while we were doing this together. And
Mhm.
she arranged stuff, and I was just like, I don't really want that there. And and I was just like, yeah, but this looks better here. And this is me. Like, I'm going, you're moving things. I don't like what you're doing,
Yeah.
but I kind of stuck with it, and I had to like tell myself, okay, stand down, just relax into it. And then it,
Mhm.
it kind of ended up to the portion where we came both together, and then it came together, and I was like, oh, okay, that does look better. You're correct. So
Yeah.
I share that in a story as to why it's important to be open to
Hmm.
suggestions, mentorship, coaching around that. I
Hmm.
know that she's got a lot more experience with creating different things like that. So I was more willing to be like, to accept different things with her. Same with my own coach and mentor. We're both creators. And it's funny, there's times where I'll be creating something on Canva, and I'll send her what I've just created, and she'll be like, this, and this. And I'll be like, oh, okay. But then I'll be like, what if I add this? And what if I do this over here too?
Yeah.
Because we're both
Right.
creators. And so, and then she'll be like, yeah, but you should also this, and this. And we'll just go back and forth in conversation like that because we're both
Yeah.
creatives. And it's like 30 minutes has gone by, and so
Yeah.
I share all that to say, be open to suggestions. uh,
Yeah.
be open to that, because as difficult as it is for me sometimes, especially when I think I've created something that's really cool, and then
Yeah.
my coach or my co-host comes by and she's like, well, let's move this over here and let's change the color of this, and I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Right.
I
Yeah. Well,
know
and
that feeling. Yeah,
yeah, I think that's part of that trust the process piece
it
that
is.
I was talking about earlier. It's like, and what you were just talking about before when I kind of lost my train of thought, about the journey. And it's like that journey, I have learned, to be more open, and because I can't, I have a tagline on my email, you can't leave where you haven't gone. And it's like, if I'm still so stuck and I'm still unable to take that criticism, that coaching, like you're saying, um, how can I expect to reach in and coach someone who's struggling in that area?
Yeah,
Um, move past that. So taking my own insecurities that I've kind of worked through over the years and going, I know how you feel, but trust the process. And like you said, go on a journey with me. Be in
yeah.
this moment, get out of your head, connect with God, and just trust the process and go for it and move through that fear, move through that moment of, we're grinding gears and you're like, oh,
You're like,
just keep
crap. Oh
going,
my gosh.
just keep going. Just, so yeah, I agree. Um, and it is growth and it is a journey. And it is trusting the process so much of,
100%.
uh, yeah. And so I think that is part of what I want to help people work through too is it 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 really doesn't have to be perfect. And if you're willing and open, you can learn, like you said, you can learn more.
Hmm.
Um, if you're willing to just be coached just a little bit. Yeah, it's
100%.
good.
Now, along the
Yeah.
same kind of lines there, um, and then we're going to get ready to kind of wrap up a little bit here, but have you ever faced spiritual warfare or fear connected to your creativity? And how did you overcome it?
Um, yes.
Uh-oh, I think I just opened up a can of worms here. That was a
So,
delayed reaction, and there's a lot of heavy thinking going on around that one.
yes, there is. So I don't, I guess, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I got sick in 2017.
Hmm.
And I was, I had been awoken creatively and I was moving and I was doing creative things. Um, and I knew in my heart solidly the power of creativity. And when I got sick, I had bronchitis. I didn't know it, but I had it for about a month, and so it was really, really bad. And I ended up staying home, and I was in my home, and I felt like God was like, I want you to create with me, and I want you to declare your healing and your health. And I was like, okay, so, and he's like, that canvas that you're afraid of, that really big one, the biggest one you've ever bought, I want you to get that canvas and I want you to set it up in the middle of your kitchen. And I want you to put some worship on. And you're going to fight for your life with this creativity. Now, mind you, by that point, I couldn't lay in bed. I couldn't even sit up in a chair because I couldn't breathe. Um, so by that point, I had to lean forward, and I found out it's like they call it the asthma curl or something like that, where you have your arms around a pillow and you're leaning forward, and that's the only way you can actually breathe. So I was sleeping like that. So he told me to dance, and he told me to get my biggest canvas, and he told me to worship and fight with creativity for my life. And I was like, okay, I know the power of creativity. I know what you can do through it. I trust you, and I'm going to get up even though I can hardly breathe. And I'm going to move my body and I'm going to engage in this moment because I know that this is how I'm fighting for my life. This is how
Mm.
I'm fighting, that song. This is how I fight my battles. Well, creativity is how I fight my battles. And so I grabbed that canvas and I grabbed my paints and I began to paint this picture. I saw a gold feather, and he walked me through, grab your purple, grab your black, grab your red, grab your green, and these different sections on the canvas that were the background. And I painted this gold feather. And I just worshiped and I painted and I cried and I prayed, and I mean it was an all-out war for my life. And when I finished the painting, it was kind of it was kind of a it was a massive encounter. I went into my living room and I got on all fours because that was kind of how I could breathe, and I was trying to catch my breath. Um, and I literally felt the spirit of terror come into the room, like right there, tangibly next to me. And I felt like it was the spirit of death. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, like, is this the end? And then at that exact moment when I like felt that, it was like, and I was wrapped so deeply in the knowledge and the presence of God. And I was like, I'm
Wow.
fine. I'm so good. Like it was like this bubble of Holy Spirit just wrapped me up. And it was like terror was, that spirit of death and terror was like there and it wanted to get me scared. But it was like, you can't touch me. Like you can't touch me. And then God gave me the download of the colors that he had me paint that painting with, the purple. Nobody messes with a daughter of royalty and wins. And then the blood, or the red, the blood, he's like, I paid for all sickness and diseases. You are healed. And then the green, that he told me to paint, he's like, this is new life. He's like, this isn't the end. You have, life ahead of you. You've got new growth. And so, and then it was, that feather of hope. Birds have always been a symbol for me. And so it was that feather of hope. You were made to fly. You were made
Mm.
to conquer, to go to the highest mountaintops and fly. And you weren't meant to be caged in a, little caged bird. You were meant to fly. And the gold, even speaking of his glory and his presence. And so yeah, it was just amazing. So yeah, I've fought for my life, literally with creativity, and I've fought in other ways too, but that was the one that came to my mind. Um, and so that was like, I'm like, how much do I share? I tried to be really short, but that was a moment
No,
that I
no, no,
was,
no. I loved every
yeah,
minute of that story, and I'm actually
yeah,
so glad I pinpointed that question to ask. I was just like, that's the perfect follow-up question with where our conversation has been going. Um, I'm still processing that story.
yeah.
That's making my eyes water right now.
Wow.
That is an amazing story, my friend. Wow. The fact that you struggled through that, you struggled breathing through that, you struggled with all of it, you stood strong, and then in the end you felt like the spirit of terror and different things like that come and then how God just engulfed you, and then the revelation of the colors. That is just
Mm-hmm.
so powerful. What a
Yeah.
powerful story. So, with that, you guys, here's what I want you to key into here as we start wrapping up this interview. God is powerful, and God can work through anything, and God can heal as well. And that's what happened with you, Charity, is God took that big canvas painting and had you go through that experience. You trusted him through the process. And then he brought you through, and not just brought you through, he held you in his arms, he engulfed you. And yeah, wow. I don't think I have too many more words around that story. So let me ask you one last question here.
Sure.
What are 3 to 5 things that you would like to leave the audience with today, around creativity, around what you teach? It could be pillars of your program, it could be whatever. What are 3 to 5 powerful tips or whatever that you want to leave the audience with today?
Yeah. I think I think the biggest one is realizing your creative identity. Realizing that God imprinted you with creativity, and realizing that when you choose to partner with him and you go, God, I trust you and I want to create with you, no matter what it is, whatever field your creativity is in, you're reflecting him and his nature on the earth. Like that is so powerful. It's just empowering. You're like, I literally can't fail because I'm partnering with him, and I'm creating heaven on earth. Like I'm taking, this intangible thing, this idea, this creativity. Creativity is in your mind first, right? And
Yes.
then I'm partnering with God to bring it to earth, and I'm doing, you're fulfilling that commission of be fruitful and multiply and have dominion of the earth. You're literally creating like your creator to bring heaven to earth so people can experience it. Like what what better thing could you do, than to give your creativity to the world? So that it's important, and it's not, like I said earlier, it's not about just art. It's about leaving space for his presence. It's about encountering him. It's about co-creating with him, whatever field it is. Giving him that space to and giving him the room. It says in the Bible that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And so, um, when you feel that fear, that's not God, So, okay, God, you gave me a spirit of power. So I'm empowered by you, and I'm powerful to do
100%.
this thing that feels scary.
Yes.
I'm loved by you, and I can love well. And the way that I can love in this moment is to create the thing you're putting in my heart to create. So I'm going to reflect you in that way, and that sound mind that um I'm having all these thoughts, all these lies are just bombarding me like little birds, and you're just like, ah. But you said you gave me a spirit of a sound mind. And so God, I lean into you and I choose rest and not the hustle and not the chaos of the world that it wants to give us. And I lean into you and I go, God, how do you want to do this? What's the strategy?
Mm,
What are you saying to me in this moment? How do you want to heal my heart? And so pushing past that fear into his love, into his presence, into that power that he gives us and partnering with it. It really is about creating that space for his presence and taking it to him, running to him, resting in his wing, like Psalms 91 says. He who abides, you abide in that presence. From that place you create, and the earth is filled with his glory, and you can't, there's nothing better than that, you know? So yeah, just remember that you're creative. Remember that your DNA is stamped with creativity, and he wants to co-create with you. And so taking it, like I said, back to his presence, back into that place, and that place of rest, and allowing him to heal your heart, heal your mind, and get all those lies out. Is it's super important. So yeah.
such amazing stuff. Such amazing stuff. Golden nuggets everywhere in this episode. Love it. Love it so much. So how can people connect with you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook group. It is the Hope Words Creative Collective. It's a free online group. You can join that. And in there, we do creative activations. We do live streams. We do journal activations, just a lot of different creative ways to connect and really ignite your creativity, to encounter God
Hmm.
and to discover like your type of creativity, even your purpose. Like why did God make you specifically, and what did he stamp on your heart specifically? And so we discover and uncover those things together as a community. And yeah, I just love it. I love the creatives, just my heart. And then I'm on all the social medias, well, most of them. Um, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And my handle is hopewords.charity. So you can just type that in and find me there. Yeah, I also have a website, www.hopewords.net, and you can find me there. And I do have workshops and challenges and things like that, so you can register for those on there.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, so yeah, get in touch with me there.
So you guys, the links to connect with her are going to be in the description below this video, as well as her bio, so you can kind of read through that as well. And so those links will all be there. And I do believe she's got some free stuff on her website too that you might want to dive into. Check that out. And then don't just do the free stuff. If you're curious enough, work with her. Go support her in the work that she's doing, because she is doing a very unique thing. There's not very many people out there that I know that are helping people connect with God through art in the way that she is doing it. So powerful. So you'll find all that in the description below. And so, lastly, you guys, before we end today's episode, so maybe this is your first time watching an expert interview with Ken, and maybe this is the first time seeing me. Well, like, who is this guy and why is he doing these interviews and da 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 da. Well, why I'm doing these interviews, that's a whole nother can of worms and a whole story. But here's the thing. I am a weight loss coach. I've lost 62 and a half pounds and I've kept it off for 7+ years now, all without a diet, having that be sustainable. And right now, you guys, I am giving away my 3 secrets to help you lose weight, feel energized, and get healthy without starving or dieting. In just 3 powerful sessions with me, I've got a mini bootcamp series that exposes the 3 biggest lies that are keeping people stuck and shows them how to fuel their body God's way. so that they can break free and keep the weight off for life. It's just in 3 powerful sessions with me. Right now, for as long as it lasts, that boot camp is going for $97. Come on. You've got nothing to
That's awesome.
lose but those extra pounds, and you've got everything to gain in the right way, you guys. So dive into that. You will find the link to join that boot camp below Charity's stuff, as well as other links to connect with me down there as well. And also, if you are on here, you are listening, I want you to go to the YouTube page here and click and subscribe as well. So with that, Charity, do you have any other last minute thoughts that you'd like to share before we end today's episode?
I think um just play. Just be childlike and just play and just go back to that childlike place in your heart and just be free to do the creative thing that's in your heart. And don't be afraid and don't let fear stop you, but just play. Give yourself permission to play. I
Hmm.
think that's super important with creativity, and
Ooh, I
it
love that.
doesn't have to, doesn't have to turn out, but just play. So,
Yeah, no, I love every part of that. Just play. And give yourself the space and grace to play. Don't be
mhm.
like me sometimes as an entrepreneur. I'm just like, oh, I don't have time for that. I need to work on this over here. I need to work on this. And it's all work, 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 and no play. Don't be like me. But I'm getting better at that. Um, so with that, you guys have a great rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time of day you are listening. I will catch you on the next expert episode. Talk to you guys later.